What's up, guys? Shane here with Race Creek Bushcraft. Sorry it's been so long since I made a video. I've gotten into knife making pretty deep, and it's taken up a lot of my time, so I haven't had time to make videos. But I've got so much gear and stuff that I want to test and show you guys and tell you what I think about different gear that I purchased. So that's why I haven't made any videos. But today I'm going to tell you guys what the best bushcraft saw in the world is. Yeah. Alright, I'm just kidding. You know I don't do that on my channel. What we're really going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to talk about a bunch of different saws. I'm going to show you guys how they cut, how they work in use, and spoiler alert, and there's no best bushcraft saw, there's no best bushcraft knife, there's no best bushcraft axe, any of that. There's no best. There's compromises. There's always compromises in bushcraft when you're out in the woods. And what I mean by that is, you might have a big saw that cuts really good and really fast and cuts through big stuff, and you can make firewood really quick. But that saw is not going to work well for notching and crafting, and vice versa. You might have a little saw that works great for notching and crafting, but works nigh at all for making yourself and processing firewood and building a shelter. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to look at a few different styles of saws. We're going to look at folding saws. Okay, we're going to look at, I have one fixed blade saw, and we're going to look at a buck saw. So we're going to look at a few different types, and we'll make a decision as the video goes on to what you think is the best for you. So before we get started, I want to show you a couple of my knives that I made. People keep telling me I need to make videos of my own knives, and I really don't want to do that. That's not what this channel's about. But I'm going to show you a couple that I have, and then we'll get started on the test. So let me move around and show you what we have. So I made 3 of these. I made one for my nephew Austin. I made, this one's mine. This one's been used quite a bit. So this is just a Bahco style. Okay, it's got desert ironwood, orange liners. I don't know why my camera won't focus. Let me see if we can do something here. Okay, it seems to want to focus a little better now. So anyways, just, so I make knives with heavily contoured handles, Coke bottle. But this I made specifically for bushcraft because I didn't want any weird hot spots, and I want to be able to, cut this way, transition really easily. So I just made it relatively flat. So anyways, these are Corby Bolts. These are actually bolted in. It's epoxied, Scandi grind, 3/8 lanyard tube. Here is, I don't have my nephew's because he has it, but here's the one I made for my son. Same thing, except this is stabilized pine cone and blue resin. And then I put some thick white liners on it. So this one's pretty cool. Everybody seems to like this because of the pine cone. It's a lot lighter weight too than the desert ironwood. So anyways, that's what I've been working on. I'd love it if you guys come over and follow on Instagram at SOB Forge or my Facebook page. I do raffles there. I've already done one giveaway, so you might want to come check it out. You can see what I'm working on, different styles of knives. I make hidden tangs. I make, stock removal. I make forged knives. I make all kinds of stuff. So if you want SOB Forge, Facebook and Instagram, come check us out. And let's get on with this video and not quit plugging myself here. Alright, so I think we're kind of set up here. We can look at some of these different types of saws and styles and talk about them. I know I've said this before, this is always the hardest part for me, is getting to where we can see everything. So I'm going to go around the other side of the table. We'll talk about some of these and talk about some of the differences and what might work for what. So let's just start with, what are you going to use the saw for? I mean, that's a good starting point. So like I said, there's no one saw that's going to do everything well. This saw is going to be awesome at making lots of firewood really fast. This is the Silky Katana Boy. Got super aggressive teeth. I mean, this thing is an absolute beast. But it's not going to make notches or things, smaller tasks. It's not going to do that. Sorry guys, I had to put a heater on my camera. This is take 2. I literally made this whole video already once, and my camera died. I was down to the very last saw, and I used them all outside. Now we're indoors. because I have a heater in here. So getting back to this saw, this is a huge saw. This is the saw you're going to take and pack away to make, you know, a shelter or a sneaking log cabin. Seriously, this thing's a monster, but it's not going to do well for smaller stuff. So I'm just going to get this one right out of the way. I'm not even going to cut with the saw today. Just trust me, it's like a mini chainsaw. So I'm going to get that out of the way. And we'll just kind of go through all these saws and the different styles and what they are good for and may not be good for. So this is a buck saw. They call this a buck saw. Now, there's positives and negatives. One of the main negatives is you're only allowed to cut something of this depth, or maybe even a little less than this. But in saying that, that's 99% of the time, that's more than you're going to need anyways. I mean, you're not going to be cutting stuff bigger than this most of the time. So, you know, that could be a negative or not. Another negative is you've got to put this together every time you get to wherever you're going. And it's not a big deal. It takes 60 seconds, you know, so it's not a big deal. It's a little bit more fragile when it's taken apart. You know, you need to kind of keep it protected so you don't bend your blade. But when it folds up, the wood itself, the wood frame kind of helps protect it. But I noticed it in my pack when I tightened it up, the whole thing was flexing. So just something to think about. But these cut really well. They're, you know, it's an old design, been around for a long time. They work. The thing I don't like about it, and it could be my technique, and I'm sure somebody will comment and tell me, yeah, it's your technique, is, and this happened in the last video. Literally, I made a cut, and I always cut, you know, one side's thick and one's thin, so it starts to do one of these numbers. So that's what I find with the buck saw every single time. My nephew has one of these. I used it, and same thing. So every one I've used, I cut crooked with it. So that could just be me. But so that's your typical buck saw. Now the rest of these saws are all folding saws of different sizes, different tooth designs, except for this one. This is a fixed blade. So this is going to be your strongest type of saw. This steel goes all the way down the handle. You take this off, and you can replace these blades. That's another cool thing. Some of these others you can replace the blades also, but this is going to be your workhorse. This is going to be the one that can take the most abuse. This is a Silky Sugoi. This is a professional grade saw. You know, arborists use these. You've got this little hook on the end that's sharpened for hitting little, you know, vines or other little branches, and I tested it. It does work really well. This part sharpened. So that's one of the features, and also this is an over pull stop because all Silky saws are pull saws. So as you push, it doesn't cut. As you pull, it really bites in, and this keeps you from pulling out of your work. Because once you pull out your work, now you've got to get it back into your notch. So that's what that design feature is. And if I come around here, I want to show you guys something else that is really important to talk about Silky saws. Is they've got tapered blades. Now if I can get this camera to focus, it is, you can see how thick it is here, and if I flip it over to the spine, you can see it's thinner, thicker. And the reason being is this cutting edge portion is thicker than the spine. So as you travel through your workpiece, you're not going to have binding because you're wider at your cut than you are as you move down through your workpiece. So you're not going to have to worry about these type of saws, these Silkies, sticking in the wood so much as others that they're all the same thickness. Okay, so you got your buck saw, you've got your folding saws. These are all folding saws, and you've got your fixed blades. So what I was talking about when I first started the video is, you know, it really depends on what you're doing to dictate what saw you want. And there's compromises all the way around. It's like when I go to the woods, I'll take a smaller medium knife like the Bahco that I made, and then I'll usually take something like the Falcon Even A1 Pro. So I want a medium size, small knife for doing finer tasks, and then a bigger knife, you know, for batoning maybe if I'm going to do that, or, you know, chopping limbs off. It's really fast just to take a larger knife and chop limbs off. So, you know, this knife is not going to be the best for everything, and the knife that I made, the Bahco, is not going to be the best for everything. So typically when I go to the woods, I'm taking a larger knife, not a crazy big knife, but a knife this size is a Falcon, even A1 Pro. A knife like the Bahco, and then I'll take a saw and an axe usually. Here I have my Gransfors Bruck Scandinavian Forest axe. I usually take this. But I'm trying to downsize some gear. I'd like to just take a saw and maybe 2 knives and pass on the axe. Using an axe versus a saw is way faster. Of course, you can't split with it, but usually you don't really need to split wood. You know, if you're doing some big heavy notching to make a big type of structure, yeah, the axe might be nice, but I don't feel you really need an axe most of the time. It's nice sometimes, but they're heavy, they're more cumbersome, they're definitely a lot more dangerous if you're not careful. So I'm trying to downsize and figure out what works best. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cut with all these saws. I've got a piece of wood set up in the vise, and you know, I'm not going to tell you which one is the best. You know, this saw right here is not going to be that great for cutting, you know, smaller stuff, trying to make notches. You know, so that's why I bought this Opinel. It's small. I bought it literally so that I can make temp pegs and square notches and things like that. This is going to be perfect. It's small, it's handy, but let me tell you, I was really surprised. We're going to cut this piece of wood over here that I have set up in the vise, and in the first video I was talking about blah blah blah, how you know, this isn't, no, it cuts fast. I didn't think it would cut. It really cuts really well. So you know, the only downside is it's you know, it's a shorter blade, so you're limited to how much material you can cut through. So we've got our folders, we've got our fixed, we've got our buck saw, and then real quick before we even get started, I'll go through and tell you what each one of these are. So this is the ever famous Silky Big Boy. I've had this one for many years and cut a lot of stuff with it. Then we have, for the fixed blade, this is the Silky Sugoi. Really stout feeling blade. I really like the feel of it. This is a tough one here. So these two I think might be my favorites, but I'm not sure. I have used them both just a little bit, but not a whole lot. So you've got the Silky Ultra XL. The thing I like about this, it's all metal. It's not heavy. It's not heavy at all, but this whole handle portion is metal. It's got the overmolded gum rubber. It feels really comfortable. You've got a lot of the Silkies have, or all that I know of, have 2-position blades. So if you're cutting a piece of wood down close, look at my knuckles are going to be hitting. I just adjust it here, bam. This doesn't cut as fast, but it'll get you through and your knuckles will stay out of the mud and the dirt, or maybe up in a tree pruning, it'll keep your hand out of the way. So this is the Ultra XL. I really like that saw, I really do. I like this one a lot too. This is the Silky F180, same thing, 2-position blade, pretty slick, cool saw. We'll see how it cuts here in a minute. Then, and I will talk about price too, I'll get through this. This is the Chrono Saw. You can get these like at Lowe's, you can get them on Amazon. They're a $20 saw. You know, it's almost like they're kind of disposable, but in saying that, they're built pretty darn well. You've got some steel liners in here. You've got this hand position, plus you can get back here to really pull, because it's a pull saw. Just like the Silkies, they're pull saws. So this is a nice saw for 20 bucks. Then you've got the ever famous Bahco Laplander, which bushcrafters have been using for years. So we'll see how that one stacks up against some of the Silky saws. Got the Pocket Boy. A lot of people have this saw. This is the 170. They make different lengths and blades, and of course all the Silkies you can get different TPIs, teeth per inch. They might call it something else, but they're Japanese saws, so it might be like in millimeters, but basically how many teeth are in a certain designated length on the blade. Then we've got the Opinel or Opinel, I don't know how you say it. These are made in France. This is number 12. They also make a number 18. So this has their cam locking system, so you just twist this and it locks the blade. Open, close it, twist it, lock the blade. So it can't come open, kind of a cool feature. So those are the saws. We're gonna go get set up and do some cutting, and we'll see how these dudes work out. All right guys, so we've got this set up in a vise. It's probably gonna be a little shaky and noisy because I have tools on this bench, but let's do some cutting. So I'm going to use the buck saw first, and all we need to do is cut off a small sliver just to see how it cuts. Remember I said I always cut crooked with these. And somebody may say it's my technique, and that's probably so. I'm not going to deny, I'm not a professional with one of these things, but see, thick here, thin. So when you're cutting like that, you're essentially cutting in, okay, and your saw is cutting at an angle, or it's cutting around, it's doing one of these numbers, so you're using a lot more energy. And that's what I find. I think the buck saws cut fine, but you end up using more energy in the long run. So they don't really, for me, they just don't work as well. Let's just put it that way. Tighten up this vise. All right, so let's get another saw. Let's go smallest to biggest. So let's go with the Opino and see how this one cuts. Make sure we're in good focus. Yeah, could maybe adjust a little bit like that. Okay, so this saw is, you've got about 1.5 inches or so more than the size of this. So it will cut through this. This is, really at a maximum. If this is all you had, it would work for this type of wood, but this is really too big. At least for me, I didn't buy it for cutting through stuff like this. I have bigger saws for that. So, guys, I'm just gonna try to cut the same with every saw. I'm not gonna try to make one cut faster. I don't really care which one cuts the fastest, okay? Because honestly, they all cut plenty fast enough. So I'm just gonna cut at a normal rate. I'm not gonna try to kill myself. It's not a race. I'm gonna try to use the same speed and the same pressure with every saw. So here we go. Okay, so you notice on this side it was cut at an angle. This side cut pretty clean. It cut pretty clean. A nice smooth cut, really smooth. So that tells me I'm not wasting energy on making a ragged, jaggedy cut. This little thing, you can see, cut right through that, no problem. Worked out really well. So we'll move up to the next saw, which would be, we'll say, the Pocket Boy. That's kind of the next one in line. This is the 170. They make different lengths of these. So let's try this one. Okay, once again, nice smooth cut. Did a good job. Next saw in line would probably be, let's see. It looks like the Laplander is next. So we'll see how this one cuts. Now, as far as I know, this is, well, except for the buck saw, this is the only saw that I have that is push-pull cut. So this cuts when you push forward, and when you pull back, it's cutting both ways. Where the Silkies are only pull cuts. Okay, so same kind of speed. Good cut. I think a good comparison with this saw is probably the F180. That's the closest one in size. So that one went through it, cut fine. Let's see how the F180 from Silky does. Pretty comparable, I think, speed. It's getting a lot of vibration, I think maybe because these teeth are so aggressive. You could hear it in the workbench. This thing's really cutting in, and I was getting a lot of vibration. So, but I'd say those two cut fairly similar. I'd probably say, let's do it one more time. Let's do the Bahco and the F180. Let's do it one more time. counted about 13 seconds, give or take. I don't know. That was maybe 10 seconds. So this cut a little faster, but whew, that baby does vibrate. It does bite in. All right, so next saw that we have is the Chrono Saw. These are 20 bucks. Oh, I didn't talk about price. I said I would do that. So 20 bucks. These are, the F180s are about 30 bucks. The Bahcos, 20 to 30, depends. Usually around 25, 22, somewhere in there. I don't know. I bought this a long time ago. I want to say they're probably, the Bahco Boys are around 30 to 40. Same thing here. You guys would probably have to look it up. It's been a long time. I think these are around $65, but I could be wrong. This is an Ultra XL. That was $58. And I got to give a shout out real quick to Silky Saws Australia. Shanae, Anita, thank you for guiding me into this saw. Guys, if you just want to learn a whole heck of a lot about Silky Saws, you can just shut this off and go to Silky Saws Australia, and Anita and Shanae know tons and tons and tons about the saws. They sell them, and they kind of help me with getting this one. They have really great videos, and I think you guys will enjoy it. So anyways, this is the Sugoi, and I just bought this from my local chainsaw dealer, a steel dealer. It was $99, and that's about average. Some places are selling them for more, some a little less, but yeah, it's a $100 saw. So moving on, we're going to cut with the Chrono Saw. Now I've used this one on 4, 5, 6 cuts, and it works really well. It's a good saw. I say it's right there with the F180, you know, whoops, probably real close in speed. So that's the Chrono Saw. Locks open and locks close. But it does not have, it doesn't have the 2 position. So if you're cutting close to the ground, you don't have the option of getting your knuckles away from the ground like you do with the Silkies. So whatever, not saying it's better or worse, I'm just saying you have more options there. All right, next, this I think is probably my favorite. You know, it's metal construction. It's got the 2-position blade. It's really lightweight, but it's, you know, it's built heavy duty. So I'm gonna make a cut with this one. We'll see how it does. Maybe a little faster than some of the others, maybe not. Seemed a little faster to me, but this thing rips. This is the Ultra XL, 58 bucks. Sweet. All right. Now we've got. We'll go to the big boy.